Hey everyone, I'm Rob Scott from UC Today, and we're bringing you all the news and conversation from the unified communications and collaboration space. So today I'm joined by Andreas Hipp, who's the CEO at Cataleya, and we're going to be discussing how Cataleya's communications core is powering service providers in the digital age. Welcome, Andreas.
Welcome, Rob. Greetings from Singapore. Hope you're well.
I'm very well, thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you again. I know we catch up at events every now and again, so yeah, good to see you face to face.
Same.
So today, Andreas, we've got an interesting session lined up. But before we jump into the topic, how about we just give us a little bit of an introduction? Tell us about yourself and what you do at Cataleya, please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as you introduced me, I'm the co-founder of the company. And I've been myself in telecommunications for over 20 years. Sometimes I feel it's a bit too long already, but got stuck in one way or another. And Cataleya was actually founded during my time at Epsilon Telecom. And we wanted to venture off the traditional telecom service provider product lines like connectivity, data center, telephony, and start moving into technology, which we felt became more and more important in the early 2010s, and shift the company to become a bit more, service aware and be able to handle all these new applications that started to appear all around the world. So, and Cataleya became independent about 4 years ago when we bought it out from the previous owners, and is now a privately owned software and CPaaS or PaaS services company. We focus mainly on session border controller software, BSS solutions, as well as enterprise and wholesale messaging platforms, either for customer hosted deployments where they deploy on-premise or in the cloud, private, public, or they can also rely on us and use our Orchid cloud platform where we offer all the platforms as a hosted service fully managed.
That's great. Thanks for that introduction. And I mean, effectively, you are at the core of UCaaS or UC platforms, aren't you? Or the core switching technology.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we typically sit in the core networks of any type of service provider there is out there. Yeah.
I'm always interested to find out more about this side because this is a side I'm probably less kind of knowledgeable on. So, I mean, in terms of today's world of UCaaS, I mean, things are changing pretty fast. What are service providers looking for in their core switching technology?
I would say first and foremost, because the core is typically something which is hidden from the public eye. The user doesn't see it. They just know it when something went wrong, right? But they don't know what it is, right? So I think first and foremost is really technical capability and reliability. The stuff has to run ideally all the time without interruptions. Then I would say, of course, are the features, right? The features have to be able to support the customer's requirements and use cases. And that has changed a lot. I think 15, 20 years ago, a vendor would have gone to a service provider and said, listen, these are all my lovely boxes I have. Just buy them, and then you can provide all these great services to your customers. There were little differentiators. Every telco was the same telco, right? But if you look, and especially with UC, if you look at the landscape of communication service providers now, including OTTs, there's a complete different, ecosystem out there of solutions and applications you or the customers will choose. And so for us, it's far more important to be able to accommodate the needs and the products and solutions these customers have. So we are not telling them anymore what they should be building. They build something their customers find cool, and we have to be able to support them in the best way possible, right? Then the third one is affordability. The market is very competitive and will remain so. So I think the platforms and also the commercial models that are available have to support the customers' revenue models as well, which is increasingly recurring revenue. So, the cost base maybe has to also change to support these kind of revenue models. And then I think support, right? The greatest product is of little use if it breaks and you have nobody to call. So we put a lot of effort on building a proper support infrastructure, service desk, professional services team to actually, deal with any escalations and problems. So I think these are kind of the elements that operators would look for, and I was running one myself for 15 years, so that's what certainly our CTO was looking for, and I guess that hasn't changed that much.
So, I mean, given that we're still in a global pandemic, I suppose, and, scalability and that flexibility you talked about was really important, certainly last year as companies, raced to the cloud for their communications. I mean, how important is platform agility? I mean, is this a priority for communication service providers?
I think so. Thanks for reminding me that we still have a pandemic or endemic, because I'm still locked up here in Singapore. But it certainly has. I mean, imagine, you have to, especially on an international basis, right? Imagine you have to support your technical deployments in various continents. I mean, to get on a flight and send your engineer across is almost impossible, right? Or it would take far too long to achieve anything. Then also, and even in London, I remember early last year, we had a customer trying to get into his data center. But when the lockdown was on, unless you were an emergency or on the list of relevant service or important services, you couldn't get out of your house. Right? So, obviously you have to have systems in place which you can still operate and scale and ideally even deploy without physically leaving your room or your office, wherever you are. And domestically, it's probably a bit easier because, you can get about these days, but traveling is still a bit of a challenge. So, expanding overseas or expanding services and reaching customers overseas is still a challenge if you try to do that, kind of sending people around. So I think it's very important that, you have vendors around or partners who can get you up and running in the most remote areas very, very quickly, and also allow you to scale the platforms in matter of, maybe even minutes, or maybe scale them yourselves or deploy yourselves, like we do with some of our customers who never actually phone us, to just tell us when they have done the work and deployed, and And we had a customer here, or have a customer here in Asia, who started very small with an on-premise deployment in Singapore, but they won a massive deal with a major e-commerce company in the region, and had to deploy in 5 Southeast Asian countries within a couple of weeks, and they did it. So, and these things would not have been possible 10 years ago. Impossible. And imagine alone the operational support costs you would have just having people in all these time zones or locations you need to support them. So yes, it's certainly very, very, important, and everybody expects service today, right? So.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear a little bit more around the kind of session border controls, because that is the core switching technology, isn't it, at the kind of heart of these cloud communications platforms. I mean, are all SBCs kind of born the same? How do you differentiate Cataleya's Orchid solution? I think it's called, isn't it, Orchid? How do you differentiate your SBC solution?
Yeah, I guess, all the vendors have a bit of a childhood story, right? I believe that Cataleya's was a bit different. As I said earlier, right, it was actually born within a service provider. So there was a significant influence on the design, architecture, analytics capabilities, operational tools, which came from within the organization, right? Because we were basically the future users of the technology division. So I think from the way you can operate it, the functions available, I think we have quite a couple of unique things others don't have, basically, or purely because of the heritage of the business, right? Then of course there are other things. We focused a lot on, having a very intuitive graphic user interface. When we started, we still had a lot of code line programming of an SBC, which nobody wants to do anymore. And then also the comprehensive routing policies becomes very, very important, or is very, very important. Automation tools built in. They can use templates to set up new interconnects to onboard new customers rather than starting from scratch and spending another 5 hours to bring another SIP trunk or SIP interconnect. Then we have analytics, right? So that was always there. A lot of customers or a lot of operators used third-party platforms to do monitoring, QS analytics. We try to pack as much as possible into the SBC. So you can look at your QS statistics like Moscow or R-Factor. We even have some call anomaly detection capabilities to kind of spot early potential call fraud. which is also, an increasing problem, really, or pain, actually. And certainly is really also the cost of ownership, right? So, and I think we try to come up with commercial models that can support the customer's requirements and business cases. So, because if we cannot do so, then I think nobody makes any business, not our customers, and as a result, not us. And we truly believe we deliver a lot of value for the buck or quid, right? So.
That's fantastic. And I think we were talking previously off the camera about kind of the types of customers that you work with. And you said a lot of the customers that you're currently working with are moving from existing clouds to your cloud effectively, or your communications core. So they're replacing that core service within their UCaaS platforms. Is that correct? Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So there are two elements. I would rather say that more and more operators consider cloud a very proper way of running network elements and network functions today. Being it a private cloud to build for themselves, or being it public clouds to use, right? The big public cloud providers obviously do one thing very well. They cater for the masses, and they cater for massive scale. But they do not have the depth and the reach, right? You won't find, maybe it has changed, but you won't find one of the big cloud providers in Pakistan necessarily, or in Bangladesh. So that's where the problem starts. So, and I think that we tried to bring in a hosted platform was that we understand how a telecommunications network has to look, because I've done that for 15 years. So we have hosted applications and servers and switches and routers. And we wanted to make sure that we control all the layers, from the network to the data center infrastructure to the application of the customer, or that we provide to the customer. And that allows us to really design the network in a very flexible way, right? You can have a single redundant node, you can have dual site redundancy, you can have public IP connectivity, you can bring a fiber connector in the data center to the node. So it allows you all this flexibility, which typically the public cloud providers cannot offer. It will be, becomes a tailoring exercise, and we are more the tailor shop than an Azure or an AWS. I assume I don't want to speak on their behalf, but that's an assessment of the situation.
No, thanks for that. And let's talk about Cataleya. So what's new and what's next? What's coming up in the future? It's almost 22, so anything new on the horizon?
Almost, and again, no Christmas at home. Well, what's coming up? So there's three core things we are doing. One is cloudification of the SBC. So a lot of the big networks and 5G will require containerized platforms. They will require you to be fully accessible via, VNF managers or orchestration tools, because we will be in multi-vendor infrastructures. So scaling and clustering will be very important for that. Then the second part is for the especially the enterprise and access side. We obviously Microsoft Teams certified, live routing certified. So we also heard that customers kind of find it sometimes very complex to provision users in Teams across the PBX and an SBC. So we are working on a provisioning and automation tool that allows customers to do that very, very simple and quickly, and don't have to be a super specialist who knows Teams and PBX and everything perfectly well to do that. And the third part is the messaging platform we recently launched. We see great traction in that, and SMS for all different purposes, being it bulk messaging or being it two-way vector authentication requirements, is growing quite dramatically. So that keeps us busy on the commercial side, and then we're also going to expand our cloud footprint. We have 7 countries active now, but we certainly see additional requirements in Asia, Europe, Central Eastern Europe. So.
That's really exciting. So I certainly wish you all the very best. I mean, for anyone looking to find out more about Cataleya's services, what's the best way to connect?
Well, the best way to connect would be LinkedIn. Just look at the Cataleya page and reach out to us. All our guys are there. or you just go to our website, www.cataleya.com, and we are happy to hear. And we have a little chatbot.
So you can talk to a
ideally
chatbot.
20%. You can try us at midnight. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, Andreas, it's been really good talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing everything about Cataleya and your plans for the future.
Same here. It's great talking to you, Rob. Thank you.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to UC Today News and give this video a quick share on social, as it's always appreciated. And if you're a UC fan and want to be part of the conversation, you can join us using the UC News hashtag on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. And our social links are in the description. So I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.